What's up, what's up, what's up? You are now tuned in. It's your man, Marv Glover.
And the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the chiseled Adonis.
And you are now tuned into the first official episode, numero uno, of the Hold My Nuggets podcast. 50% real sports, 50% real shit, 100% of the time. And if you don't like that, you can hold my nuggets.
Suck my dick.
Oh my goodness, that was flawless.
Oh yeah,
that was good. Yeah. That was good. How you think we did? Oh, he stepped out.
Yeah,
that was a little awkward. That was a little awkward.
Yeah,
that was good. That was
long
good.
Overdue.
This is how long have we been talking about this?
Good Lord, it's been some time. I'd say about 6 months, but it really probably felt like it was a year and a half.
Yeah. Just because we've talked sports a lot through the Haitian communication app. WhatsApp.
Yes, indeed. WhatsApp. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got to get on that. Mm-hmm. And I think I was the one who pitched the idea initially, right? I was like, we got to get on this. And
it was the man in the orange shirt.
Yes, sir. Sitting across from the GOAT, the Guo Cabrit himself, the one and only.
Please don't flatter me.
The one and only comedian. If you don't, well, we're gonna do introductions and everything. I don't want to spend too much time, but to everyone watching at home, welcome to the first official episode of the Hold My Nuggets podcast. This is a podcast with me and my dude, D Chiseled Adonis. We get together and we just talk about it all, man. Sports related. We mainly it's gonna be basketball and football, but we'll dive into some other stuff. We'll get into badminton.
Yeah. A little bit of competitive curling.
Hockey. What other weird sport? Cricket.
A little bit of cricket, possibly golf.
Yeah, a little bit.
Golf is out there.
A little bounce around. But I guess first things first. What?
NASCAR.
We don't. They just drive.
Yeah.
We ain't really much.
Hey, I'm about to make a left. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm making a left.
How do you analyze NASCAR? Now that I think of, are there really? No, I really want to know. Like, there's nothing.
I'm sure there's analysts for NASCAR.
There's nothing to talk about.
What are you talking? They're making several lefts.
That's all it is.
They're making a left.
Regardless,
you want to hear a corny joke? There's no Pythagorean theorem.
This guy's
there's no right angle in NASCAR.
But regardless, we gonna talk about everything, and anything that we can sports related. But before we get into this, what we got here, we're gonna do a little introduction. I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are, what you do, why you amazing, why you a legend in these streets.
A legend in these streets. Please don't listen to this man. I am no legend. But like I said at the beginning, at the top of the show, if you are unaware, you better get familiar, because I am the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the chiseled Adonis. I am a comedian.
Okay.
Not by choice, but by circumstance. Because I am naturally a schemer, so there is no sort of job that I could ever work. Beautiful. I will go to prison for embezzlement. So I have this, slang these jokes. Been doing comedy for 3 years now. I'd like to say I'm making a lot of progress. My account says otherwise, but we ain't talking about that right now.
We compared accounts the other day. I think you're doing just fine.
I beg to differ.
Compared to me, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Listen, that's a lot of Photoshop. We ain't talking about that right now.
Okay.
But yeah, comedian out here, former athlete myself,
yes, sir.
College athlete.
Yes, sir.
I went to Alfred State College upstate. If you didn't hear that clear, Alfred State College. You can go and look up my statistics. They are atrocious. It's one of those situations where you go to a team, you don't really fit the season, or I should say the system right.
I can relate.
The situation. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
What was it? They
I'm gonna get into it. Let me do my thing. Go ahead.
One of those colleges where you don't really fit the system too much. And also the camaraderie from college versus high school isn't really the same. Because in high school, I felt as if we were a band of brothers. College, it was a little bit different. But former athlete, I digress, turned comedian. And this is what we do now when we out here podcasting at the Gotham Podcast Studio. Sensational host by Mr. Mike with no hair. But we ain't talking about that. And across from me, Marv Glover, the athlete himself. See, if you didn't know, he may look as if he's built like, a discount refrigerator. But the dude out here, a skinny, you like a mini fridge, but, in-shape mini fridge. One of them things. Yeah, but,
I'll take it.
He is a absolutely stupendous athlete, I must say. If you ever seen him on the basketball court,
I'm a killer.
It is must-see
killer.
TV.
I got it.
Yeah, you introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
What's going on, people? It's the man, the myth, the legend. Actually, I don't like using that no more. A lot of people say it. It's your boy. Let's go there. It's your boy, Marv Glover, actor, writer, comedian, content creator, podcaster, Haitian. All the above. I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Happy to get this podcast started. Just a little bit about myself. Like I said, I am a comedian. Like Dave, I have been doing. This is my third year in stand-up comedy right now. I've been around comedy for the longest. What else can I say about me, man? I bounced around a lot before I got into comedy. I did a lot of shit. You were here for a lot of it. I tried to coach football.
Yeah,
that ain't
what was
work.
that? Yeah, it didn't work.
That ain't work. I tried to rap.
Oh, I remember that.
That didn't work at all. That was we don't talk about that part, man.
yeah,
I tried to manage an artist. That also failed miserably. All right, but like he said, you want to talk about a stupendous athlete. I don't like to toot my own horn, but I love to toot my own horn. You understand? I mean, let's take it back. A lot of people don't know. I'm a church basketball league legend. You understand what I'm saying? Let me legend. You hear me? Legend. All right. When you talk about church basketball legends, all right, it go me, fuck everybody else on that list. All right. That's how I'm coming. I don't know why you rubbing your head, but this is facts. I remember a time when the church that I played for, the year before I got there, we went all the way to the championship game. And what happened? You was there. You heard about it. What happened? Just say what. Did we win or did we lose? Did we win or did we lose? Did we win or did we lose? We lost. I come the next year and I gave the team what we had never seen before. A defensive superstar. Mastermind. I came into and in fact, if you want me to read off my stats for you, I'll do it with pride.
Oh, then feel free to do so.
I got it. All right. 0 points, 0 assists, 0.3 rebounds, 0.2 steals, no turnover. I never turned the basketball over in my illustrious basketball career. Field goal percentage, we don't got to talk about that. But let me tell you something. When you see Marv, I'll let you speak. When you see Marv Glover touch that court in a college basketball league, you know one thing and one thing for certain. Is he going to score? Hell no. Is he going to dribble? Hell no. Is he going to get you an assist? Never. Okay? But let me tell you something. You need to stop. You need a rebound. 1 rebound. You need hustle. An attitude adjustment.
You gonna need to stop lying to these people.
Stop. Let me talk.
No. It's about time somebody tell the truth.
I told the truth.
My man. They need to put you in a Glad commercial because you trash.
I came in. Listen, we're not gonna spend too much time because we have a lot of time to discuss. But I'll say this much. It is a coincidence when I came in that year. We won the chip. The first chip in JV history. Did we not? Wait, in history, yes or no? Yes or no?
Actually, no, I don't think
second,
it was the first one.
Whatever.
Yeah, second time.
But how long had it been? A decade. It had been a decade.
It was like 15
came in
years.
and revolutionized our team forever. And that's all we're going to say on that because we got a lot of topics to discuss.
Well, we cannot confirm nor deny it.
I'm going to confirm. I was a monster. Don't look at the stats because they'll tell you otherwise. They'll tell you shouldn't have been on.
The stats tell the truth.
Well, the stats don't tell the whole story.
Well, luckily, I have the videotapes that can be released upon request. If you'd like to see this man on the court, feel free.
I was a bulldog. You know what they call me? They call Gary Payton the glove. They call me the mitten. They call Gary Payton the glove. They call me the mitten.
Well, if you were the mitten, they sell you at the 99-cent store. But if we talking about what we got lined up today,
we got a lot of time. We're gonna get into everything. We're gonna get into that was funny. We're gonna get into the NBA draft. We're gonna get into NBA free agency. We're gonna talk about the LeVar Ball situation, which you definitely feels very passionately about.
Yes, indeed.
We're gonna talk about O.J. Simpson's on Twitter. Where the fuck did that go? We're gonna get into that.
The juice, baby. The juice.
And of course, you can't have a podcast about sports without talking about one of the biggest franchises in sports history, the Los Angeles Lakers. But before we get into any and every all of that, let's start off with the beginning. The NBA draft was last night. Going into the draft, there was one particular name that everybody and their grandmother was talking about in a Zion Williamson. This man from high school to Duke to right now, one of the most hype athletes, not just in basketball, in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Wow. And coming into this draft, outside of him, there were 2 other very prominent names in a Ja Morant, in an RJ Barrett. And then after that, a bunch of interesting dudes, but the draft was really about the top 3, right? Last night, the draft happens. As expected, Zion Williamson goes number 1 to the New Orleans Pelicans. Ja Morant goes number 2 to the Memphis Grizzlies. RJ Barrett goes number 3 to the New York Knicks. And then whatever happened from the draft happened from there. But the question that everyone has been asking since this man Zion Williamson bust onto the scene at a Duke and is now making his transition into the NBA, right? Will Zion Williamson, I'm asking you this. This is not a rhetorical question. I'm asking you this, right? Do you think Zion Williamson will live up to the hype?
Well, judging by the way that they're hyping this man up, because they're setting it up to make it seem as if we've got a future Hall of Famer in front of us, transcendent sort of player. I believe Will Kane said something about he's one of those players that teams will change the way they play basketball
for him
to try to emulate his sort of playing style. I think he will live up to the hype now because he has the right point guard to get the ball to him as long as Lonzo Ball can be on the court.
Amen.
Now, I think he will live up to the hype as long as he continues to do the same sort of game that he did in college.
Well, that's the discussion now because, you know, when you looked at his high school clips, he was a man amongst boys. Let's just go. I don't know if you saw all of them. I saw a good amount of
It
them.
was Thanos versus a gang of Cybermen.
That was as accurate an analogy as I could put it, man. It was unfair, really. It was disgusting. And then he gets to Duke, and you know he's playing with bigger bodies, definitely more talented players, but still, once again, just a man amongst boys. The man is like 6'8", 19, I believe.
Yeah.
6'8", 285 pounds. I read a report today. He's like, you know, he's the second heaviest player.
Yeah. Boban is the only person heavier than him. Yes.
Bro, you understand what I'm saying? 6'8", 285. Man's built like a defensive lineman.
It's unfair. It's unfair.
It's disgusting, right? So now when you talk about him playing the same game that he played in Duke, transitioning into the NBA, the talk is now, okay, look, you did it in high school, cool. You did it at Duke, great. But now you're really playing against top dogs. You're playing against, as a Stephen A. Smith would say, guys, meat and potato dudes. You're not going to be the only dude on the court. Granted, not everyone's going to be 285 like you, but you're going to be playing against 7'1", 230, 6'10", this, that, and the third. So it's going to be it for me to answer the initial question. Do I think he's going to live up to the hype? When I look at most of the discussion, the comparison that everyone's comparing him to in terms of hype, not in terms of play style, as you know, is Braun, right? Everyone's comparing Braun. I don't know about that because even though they're both freak athletes, of course their games are different. LeBron has always had more of an all-around game. Zion, when you hear a lot of people talk about Zion's game, they talk about his ability in the open court, his ability in transition, his ability more so in the paint. I think he had the highest field goal percentage for a freshman in D1 history, 68%.
Good Lord.
But you got to think about when you watch him play, and I didn't watch all of his. I'll defer to the fact that I didn't watch every single game that he played, but in the games that I did see him play, it's not that I wasn't necessarily impressed, but when you watch it, it's really a lot of putback dunks.
Yep.
It's a lot of once again fast break dunks. And the only time he ever really shoots, I've never seen him take one mid-range jumper. Can't remember him taking a mid-range jumper. The only time I remember him taking jumpers was from the three, where they would essentially leave him wide open because they never really believed in the shot.
Exactly. Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And on top of that, when you watch him shoot his jumper, it's not really a jumper. He kind of just tippy toes off the floor.
Yeah,
really.
pretty much.
You get to the NBA, you're talking about a whole different ball game.
Yeah, that's
now.
not happening. I'd say for him, he has a situation in which when he it's not that he can't develop, create his own shot,
right?
But when he's in the paint and his back is to the basket, he does this 2-time dribble. He stops, picks up his dribble, almost as if it's a side swipe with the ball, and then goes up with his left.
Right.
Or he does a dribble, fake towards the right, to the left, layup, or dunk.
Right.
Those are his two moves.
Right.
Now, in the NBA, all the big men now, they have to almost come in with a jump shot or develop one. Because if you can't stretch the floor as a big in this league now, you're going to end up looking ridiculous.
Right.
That's why you have bigs like a Brook Lopez who are still able to survive. This man is slow as molasses. And he can still put up a three. That game one, I believe, when they played against, was it Toronto? When he put up 29, or was that
I think that was game one.
Yeah, I think it
was.
was.
No, if it wasn't game one, it was definitely game two. But I know what game you're
it was one.
about.
He put up 29 and hit maybe
was that the game that
7
Giannis wasn't
threes.
playing too well, I believe?
Yeah, I think Giannis did not have a great game.
Because in that series, they won the first two games.
Yes.
So it probably was game one.
It probably was game one. If not in the conference finals, then it must have been in the semis when they played against
No, I know what game it was. It was against Toronto. I know what game it was against Toronto.
So you have that. You have somebody like a Marc Gasol who goes outside and they can shoot as well. Or if you're a big and you can't stretch the floor like that, you got to be a high energy big, something like a JaVale McGee, something like that. But if you're just an old school, I'm just big, I'm in
gonna
the
work.
paint, it's not going to work. You don't want to be like Taco Fall when you see his name not get called. They're still waiting on his brother, Burrito Rise.
This guy,
We
that
ain't
was
talking
come on.
that. Top comment.
You had to
hilarious.
have that plan.
Yeah,
You had
it was
to have that
hilarious.
plan.
No, I saw
But-
the top comment on Instagram. Had me rolling.
Go ahead.
But we ain't talking about that right now. But with Zion,
Yes, sir.
it can translate. And when I say what he did in college,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I believe that will be one of the reasons why he can succeed, because he can still catch those lobs, having
True.
great transitional players, people who can catch the rebound, and it's an instant turn into points like that. He has those pieces around him. Also, you have somebody like Brandon Ingram who can pass the ball.
True.
You have Alonzo Ball, who's a sensational, transcendent passer.
And also, not to cut you off, don't forget about Alvin Gentry. Alvin Gentry can
Yes,
coach his
indeed.
ass off.
Yes,
So
he did.
he's when you talk about coaches that are going to put a system in place that's going to benefit his development as a player, Alvin Gentry is definitely going to get
Exactly.
that.
He has the perfect pieces around him to
Right.
live up to the hype. But that core that they have, and also Drew Holiday is still there as well.
Yes, he is.
So you have Alonzo, Ingram, Hart coming off the bench most likely as well. So that second unit, and Hart can pass the ball as well. Not as great as Alonzo, but
Right.
he can pass the ball and facilitate as well.
Right.
So he's got almost no excuse not to be able to go out there and at least produce 15 points per game.
Fair enough. For me, I think what we need to see happen is, first of all, he's got to drop some weight.
Without question.
Yeah, there's no way he's gonna the kind of game that he plays. If he continues to play the type of, if they put a system around him to where he can continue to play the kind of game that he played in Duke, he's gonna have to drop weight. I don't know if I had to say a number. 250 at least, man. It's gonna be hard because you have, like, with him, you can tell, like, it's just natural. He's just a naturally big body. You understand what I'm saying? And for guys like that, and just people in general, there are some people where it's super duper hard to lose weight. But now he's in the NBA where he's gonna have nutritionists and all the other people around him to get it done. But he has to drop the weight because you're not gonna be able to keep coming down all that muscle and meat on those knee. Pause. All that muscle and meat on his knee, constantly dunking and dunking and dunking. I think that's definitely going to play a big part in it. For me, I think he'll be successful. He's too talented for me to sit and say he's not going to be a bust. Let's just go with it. I don't think he's going to be a bust. Yeah. But at the same time, when you talk about, once again, living up to the hype, when people compare him, you hear earlier on about the next LeBron James, and then when we really started watching his game, people started comparing. You heard Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
You hear Zach Randolph. Recently, I just heard
Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley was also another one in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning. Recently, just as the draft was coming up, I heard Julius Randle.
Yes, I heard that a lot.
I heard a lot of Julius Randle. So you're hearing a lot of comparisons of guys who are either just naturally bigger bodies, like a Zach or a Julius, and then you have the high flyers like a Blake Griffin because of the kind of style that he played in time. Only time will tell. I don't think in his first year he's gonna come out and wow us the way that we might want to expect, because it's going to take him a little bit of time to get used to the pace that they play in the NBA. But I think he'll be able to come in, and like you said, I think he'll be a solid. And also, once again, another thing we don't talk about with him, he's very great defensive player. He plays defense, and he plays hard. So when people think about how the intensity that he plays at, we only think about the dunks and all that other stuff. Yeah. But the man, he can block shots, and his leaping ability is ridiculous. So that aspect of his game is not going to have any problem transitioning to the NBA. But coming into the league, I think it's going to take him a little bit of time, but with the pieces that he has around him, a pass-first guy like Alonzo, a guy like Ingram who can also pass the ball, a coach like Alvin Gentry who's going to establish the system in place to where it's like, not only we're going to get you involved, but we're going to make sure we give you enough time so that you can get in the rhythm and groove of things and we can figure out what works for you, what works for Alonzo, what works for the rest of this team. He's going to be all right. He's going to be just fine. I think he has potential. For me, his floor is perennial all-star for me.
Okay,
I think he's perennial all-star for me. All in all, he'll be fine though. I think he's going to be just.
I think
fine.
if he's able to avoid the injuries, because if you think around the lines of bust, the last recent one who just simply could not catch a break in my mind would have to be Greg Oden. As that man.
Okay.
As one of those people who you expected to come in. Because this is a guy who got drafted ahead of Kevin Durant. And Oden in college this man looked like the second coming of the greatest center of all time. And his knees could not survive. His lower extremities.
He's done playing, right?
Yeah, he's done playing.
Okay.
His lower extremities simply could not survive. And it's one of those situations where you see people say, oh, you're a bust. But it's not bust by his lack of being able to play basketball and his inept ability to go and, be a Kwame Brown. But it was simply injuries and his body betrayed him.
Fair enough.
So if Zion, especially, I'm happy you made that point about him losing the weight, because all that explosive sort of move, that quick twitch that you have, and if you keep that going at that size, that's an ACL waiting to tear.
Waiting to happen. And also, once again, going back to some of the games I watch, you watch him come down on some of these dunks, man.
Yeah, he doesn't really know how to land.
He doesn't know how to land.
It makes me
bruh.
remember Derrick Rose, because every time Derrick Rose would land, it's one of what is going on beneath you. It's as if he hits a slip and slide on the way down, and bam.
So, but that once again, that's just going to come with him learning his body better. That's going to come with him learning the game better, the game coming to him through the system and everything else that they're going to put in place for him as his career develops. But Zion's going to be just fine. But now for me, moving on, not necessarily moving on from Zion, I think another big conversation is, because like I said, you go into this draft, right? The top 3 names, the only 3 names that we really talked about consistently coming into this draft, Zion, RJ, and Ja, right? For you, who do you think has the best chance to win Rookie of the Year this season amongst the 3?
I would say, initially, I was going to go along the lines of RJ Barrett.
Okay.
To be able to go and get it in New York. But Ja Morant, he probably has the best opportunity. And out of everybody, Rookie of the Year, I think it'll be a situation in which he can run away with it. Similar to what we saw this season, where it was Luka by himself up until about, I would say, March. Because the All-Star break being in February, that's when Trae Young started to turn it on.
True.
But it was Luka, nobody else. And then Trae Young started catching, but he was like, yo, you ain't do nothing for the first 2 months, so we can't give. And then it started getting ridiculous, where it's like, okay, I'm putting up 30 consistently in a bunch of different games. So it's like, wait a minute, now we're in a situation where we haven't seen them on the court in 2 months, and you don't know who's going to win it. I still say it's going to be Luka.
I think it'll be Luka too.
For this particular draft class coming up, and you have a guy like Morant, who's the only player in D1 history who had 20 and 10.
I believe so.
It's ridiculous. He can come in and be instant production and just take over for what you just lost with Mike Conley. So he can walk right in. He can get his own basket. So that's magnificent. And you know he's able to. He's not a pass first kind of guy, but if he wants to be, he can do that too.
True.
So it's going to be his franchise. He's the guy. So they're going to expect that ball to be in his hand. And more importantly, him being in Memphis, Zion having all the hype behind him. So there's a high level of expectation. New York embracing RJ as if he's going to be, the next coming.
Right.
And they even talk about him having a better career than Zion. So with Morant, Morant, you're in between. So you can almost be a sleeper that's loud.
Right.
So we'll say you're a snorer here to go get the Rookie of the Year. I'm leaning with Morant.
You know what's crazy? If we had this discussion a couple months ago, I'd probably agree with you, because I remember I told you I was raving about Morant. I loved him. But then I started looking at RJ's size. I started looking at his game, and I think that in terms of because of his size and his ability on the court, and also the fact that you got to keep in mind, Ja Morant is a 1. RJ's a 2. Every play, the ball is going to be in Ja's hand. So it's not really going to be time for him to learn how to play off the ball. It's not really, because the offense is going to, I think the offense is going to, in Memphis, is going to run through him. Whereas with the RJ, that's not necessarily going to be the case. And who's the head coach for the Memphis Grizzlies? Do you know?
The Grizzlies? No, I cannot recall the name.
I don't remember who it is.
No.
But you have a David Fizdale. Your dude who used to be in Miami that used to work with who? A Dwayne Wade, right? And you see a Dwayne Wade coming out and tweeting things like, well, congrats to my dude, RJ coming to the Knicks. Fizz is going to make sure he turns into a star. I think that plays into a big role, plays a big role as well. I think RJ is going to have the edge. With the Zion, like I said, if we had to run down the list, with a Zion, his game is definitely going to take a little bit more time to develop, because he still has a lot to learn. He has to figure out his body. We're going to see how that pans out. With a Ja, and so then for me it becomes Ja versus RJ. I think it's going to be neck to neck, man. I think it's going to be neck to neck. But all in all, because RJ has a size advantage, I think he's like 6'2", whatever it is. You hear some of the talks about his inability to use his right, something like that.
Yes.
But I think down as the season progresses, you're gonna see RJ. I think he's gonna have more of a his ability to pick the game up is gonna be just a bit quicker than Ja's. And I'm gonna bet my money on. I'm gonna go RJ. And
there's something else that has to be taken into account here, because a lot of times they overlook it when we're talking Rookie of the Year, because they only attribute this to MVP with the record of your team. Now, granted, you being a rookie, they don't expect you. Oh, if you took your team to the playoffs, all of a sudden now you're the man.
Right.
Because had that been the case, Donovan Mitchell would have been the rookie of the year last year. But knowing that New York is trying to recruit these big name free agents,
Right.
if they do land somebody like a Kyrie or they land somebody like a Kemba or the Kevin Durant, even though he's going to be in a wheelchair, if they're able to win games,
Yes, sir.
they'll also attribute that
Because
to
they pay attention to that.
RJ Barrett.
Most definitely.
So that can be something that leans in his favor because with Memphis, I don't know if Memphis is able to attract anybody to go there.
Well, nobody's going to Memphis.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on top of that, you got to keep in mind, I think right now they're in they're in rebuild mode.
Oh, without question.
They have nothing.
Without question.
They lost to Mike Conley. They lost to Marc Gasol, who just won the chip with the Raptors. It's rebuild mode for them. With a RJ, he has a better system.
Yeah,
a support
without
system
question.
around him, right? You have a Dennis Smith Jr. You have a young players like a Kevin Knox, and who else is it? It's who else is on that roster? Shit.
They have some overseas people as well.
Overseas people.
But,
I know Frank Nick. How you pronounce his name? Nicolina.
Yeah, Nicolina.
Nicotine. Frank Nicotine.
Yeah, something like that.
Frank.
He's a cigarette.
He is a cigarette. Offensively, he's pretty morbid, but in terms of his ability on the defensive end, he's solid. He has a better supporting cast around him. The Knicks are definitely on the rise. We're still trying to figure out what's going on. The Memphis Grizzlies are still trying to figure out what's going on with them. I think the edge, like I said, it's gonna be neck to neck. Because they're both extremely talented players whose games are going to transition just fine to the NBA. They both can shoot it. They both have athletic ability. Size wise, like I said, RJ is better, but it's not like Ja Morant is very miniature, so he's going to be just fine. But in terms of what they have, in terms of what RJ has around him, and the ascension that the Knicks are on right now, very slow but steady ascension. Yeah. I think he'll have the edge ultimately, going into the season. But you brought up something. You talked about a Kemba. You talked about a KD. I think it would be a crime for our sports podcast to not address, now that the draft is over, one of the more important times, probably one of the most important times ever in NBA history coming up right now, free agency, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're looking at this free agency. We see a lot of big names. I think they've gone on record to say this is probably the most star-studded.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before.
It's ridiculous now.
Right?
A ton perennial all-stars.
If we're running down the list of the names of some people, you said a KD, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler, Kemba Walker. Then you have some like second-tier guys like a D'Angelo Russell, Tobias Harris, Mirotic, just
Brook Lopez is out there too.
Brook Lopez,
Al Horford.
Al Horford's
out there.
He just opted out of his player option.
Yes, indeed, he did.
Real quick, Harrison Barnes opted out of a $25 million. Like, let me tell you something. Who's going to give this man that money? I need to see him. I need to meet him.
Did you see the reason why?
What was the reason?
Evidently, it's in hopes of receiving a max contract.
I need to find the person that's going to give Harrison. Shout outs to his agent for having that much faith in him. I don't.
Nah, you got to shout out his agent for being a member of the Uchiha clan because that's a max level genjutsu.
Yeah, I need to see who's going to give that man
$25 million. Oh, don't mind me. I'm just going to go pack my bag. I didn't even remember he was on the Kings.
I forgot he played in the league.
I said, wait a minute. Was he not on the Mavs? When did he end up in
last time I
Sacramento?
remember seeing him play was like early stages of Golden State.
Oh, my.
You remember those
Wow.
days?
Oh,
Back
yeah.
when it
Oh,
was,
yeah.
oh, my goodness gracious. God bless you. God bless you, Harrison Barnes. But nonetheless,
Brave man.
free agency is coming up, man.
Oh, don't forget Melo is out there as well.
Let's be respectful to the podcast. Let's be respectful. I love Melo, but let's be respectful to the podcast. But no, hey man, look, free agency is coming. The most star-studded free agency that we've ever seen. You heard the names that I mentioned. You hear the talks that's been going on. You hear the chirping that's going around about some of these names. I gotta ask you, man. We're gonna do it like this. I'm gonna give you a sentence, and you finish it with who you think is going where, one by one. I'm gonna knock the names off. We're gonna start from we're going top tier guys, lowest rank, and then we'll go up to the big dogs. All right.
Okay.
So the sentence is: at the end of NBA free agency this summer, blank will be playing for blank going into the 2019-2020 season. Take as much time as you want. You answer, I'm gonna answer. We're just gonna keep it rolling. You ready? Here we go. All right. At the end of the NBA free agency this summer, Kemba Walker will be playing for
Los Angeles Lakers.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You're fucking okay. Explain. I gotta hear this.
Well, with the talks in the LA talk about possibly, maybe we want to get a Kyrie, which I see that's doubtful because if Kyrie if Kyrie goes back and he goes and joins the Lakers, which at first I don't believe the Lakers should go and grab another big time free agent. I would say wait, because if you held on to Kuzma, you wanted Kuzma to be pretty much the big three person. If he's giving you 18, you bring in somebody else who's a perennial all-pro or all-pro, as if
all-star.
All-star.
There you go.
His numbers, he's not going to get the same shot numbers up. So he's going to go from 18 probably down to about 14, 12. So depending on what you want him to do. But I think they're going to end up landing Kemba because they're not going to get Kyrie. I don't think Kyrie's going to go back there because it's going to look as if it's the Thanos quote. You can live with your own,
You know what's crazy? Before like midway through the season, I was a proponent of Kyrie going to LA. Because for me, it was like we saw what he was capable of doing. First off, for me, it was like there was never really talks of any other free agents coming up this upcoming summer going there. And we're going to get into the other names as well. So for me, it's like the only name that made sense, given that nobody else was trying to go there, was a Kyrie, because we saw what he was capable of doing with the LeBron James out in LA. And what he showed, also because of what he showed you, and I know we're talking about Kemba right now. I'm going to give you my answer for Kemba, but I have to say this. We saw that Kyrie going to the Celtics, even though he was traded, he didn't choose to go there. He was traded there, was a mistake on his part because he talked about, I want to have my own team, this, that, and the third. He gets in a position where he has his own team, realizes, I don't really want this anymore. And that Kyrie is more of like you still recognize he's a superstar, but if he's the guy on your team, it's not going to be smooth sailing.
He's Robin.
There you go. You understand? Robin. So for me, it's like Kyrie knows that whether he wants to come out in the middle or not. We all know that whether he wants to acknowledge it. That's why when the talks about KD and Kyrie going to the Knicks came out, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Versus what you hear now about him going to the Nets and all that shit. Once again, I know we're talking about Kemba, but just touching on this real quick. So for me, Kyrie to LA, I was a proponent of that. I wish that would happen. It's not gonna happen because people are talking about how it's gonna ruin his legacy, this, that, and the third. For me, I disagree because if they start winning, who's sitting here over here talking about, well, he rejoin LeBron again? They're winning games, and if they're winning championships, that's all that really matters.
Yeah. However, you look at it like this: he goes back to LA. He's not Robin anymore because he's Alfred.
Oh, because of AD?
AD is there.
True.
AD is Robin.
Fair enough.
Are you willing to go somewhere and now be the third fiddle?
I mean,
because they're both probably going to put up the same amount of shots.
We'll get to that. Let's focus on Kemba. But I hear you. I what you're saying. But
well, this has been the Kyrie segment, so you might as well go.
This guy. But no, for Kemba, where do I think Kemba's going to be playing this offseason? The talks have been, LA has been talking about pursuing him. You hear talks about him wanting to go to New York. I think Kemba's going to end up in New York, man.
Oh.
I think Kemba's going to end up in New York. I think that it would make sense from a money standpoint if he was to stay with the Hornets. I wouldn't be surprised. For me, it's either New York or he stays in Charlotte. Okay. I don't know if he's going to go to LA, because with LA, I think what they need to focus more on is, I think it's enough to have a LeBron and an AD. You have a LeBron that God willing, he stays healthy, he's going to get you at least a 28, 8, and 8, right? You have an AD, he's going to get you at least 25 and 12. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't need another superstar in time mix. You need another guy you need 3 and D guys. Got shooters. That's what we were talking about all season long when they surrounded this dude with playmakers, the Lance Stevenson, a Rajon Rondo, Michael Beasley, all these just bad, terrible moves.
It does not mesh.
We don't need another superstar. They don't need another superstar in LA. They need depth. Right now, there's only like 5 people signed to the roster. You understand what I'm saying? So if they sign Kemba, would I be mad at it? No. But is that what they need? Nah. So now when you look at it from a standpoint of Kemba, he talks about players are trying to get into he doesn't talk about it, but players trying to play in bigger markets. I think if he stays in Charlotte, it's just going to be him making a lot of money and losing. With the New York Knicks, as I talked about before when we were talking about addressing RJ Barrett, yes, they don't have another superstar right now who may get KD. Who knows? We'll talk about that later. But with the young core that they have in place, that's on the rise. I think it's not like Kemba's going to be the one to come in and turn things around. Because once again, I think I put Kemba and Kyrie in the same box in terms of if he's the best player on your team, your best bet is like playoffs 8, 7 seed, depending on whoever else is around him. But he's not going to bring you to the promised land. So for me, it's like I'm saying he's going to New York. I can see him going to New York. That's what makes the most sense to me. So you got LA.
I'll throw another name at you then. Where do you see Jimmy Butler going?
Jimmy. The talks are he stays in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
The talks are actually no. What have they been talking about? They've been saying Philly. I heard something about Miami recently, but I don't think that's gonna happen. You hear talks about Harden and him talking, right, to trying to go into the Rockets. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I think Jimmy Butler stays, man. I think Jimmy Butler stays. Jimmy Butler is one of those players. Obviously, you can't. He's a star. He's one of those guys. He's a perennial all-star. But other than that, every team needs an attitude guy.
Oh yeah.
With the Rockets, it's PJ Tucker, right? With what other teams? With going back with Miami when they had LeBron waiting by, it was Haslam, right? The beautiful thing about the thing about the attitude guy is usually he's not the guy that's gonna wow you on the stat sheet, but he's the guy that everybody in the team knows you need because he's gonna be the one that's gonna set the tone for the team. He's gonna be the one that does all the dirty work. He's the real deal.
I.e. Draymond Green.
Draymond Green, I can't believe I forgot about him, right? But the beautiful thing about a Jimmy Butler, and even a Draymond Green falls into this, he's an attitude guy that not only is he an attitude guy, but also shows up
He's a walking bucket.
A walking bucket. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can't. I don't think Philly lets him go. I know it's going to be hard to imagine him and Tobias Harris coexisting on the same team. I think they let Tobias Harris go.
I agree.
And that Jimmy Butler comes back. I can't see Jimmy going anywhere, man. He's not. I don't see him going to L.A. Houston, unlikely. Miami was a random toss-up name. That's random to me. I think he stays in Philly. What about you?
I think it's either he stays in Philly, Miami. I did see that, and looking at how they drafted, I think it's a possibility that can happen. However, I'm going to lean towards Philly.
Okay.
I think he's not going to go anywhere. I expect Tobias Harris to go and walk. I don't see Jimmy Butler going to the Lakers, as I saw, even the Clippers, because I think somebody else will be going to the Clippers.
Okay,
but
we'll get into that.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, he's going to stay in Philly because they're not going to have that. What was it? They had the big five lineup that they had this past year, where you had Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and they had one other guy.
Oh, fucking was it Jay? Not JJ. It was
they had another guy.
I know who you're talking about. Oh, shit.
I'm forgetting their name.
But I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, they had somebody else where they looked at their starting five was solid,
crazy
across the board, and they still couldn't get it done. So I expect Jimmy Butler to re-sign, stay in Philly, because they do need that attitude guy. And now with Tobias being out, his shot selection, or not even his selection, his shot attempts, it'll probably increase by maybe 3 or 4 shots.
Definitely.
And it works out very well because Ben Simmons
refuses to shoot.
He refuses to shoot.
He's scared to shoot.
And Butler can be outside, and then you have Embiid inside. They have very good meshing personalities. It'll work very well.
Let me throw you another name that we're going to throw out for more. It's more of a casualty because I don't even think this is really a discussion. But you know, he's like I said, one of those top tier guys. Where do you see Klay Thompson going?
He's resigning.
He's resigning.
He's resigning. Man. He is not leaving the Bay Area.
He's not.
One, him missing this entire season. If I was him, I'm not coming back. ACL, sometimes people can, if you have that sort of superhuman sort of body, you can come back in 6 months. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't
you think
rush
you
back.
should take the whole season
Yeah,
off?
because a lot of people, they're going to say, all right after All-Star break, they expect to have him back, given that you were hurt in June. You have 8 months to go and recover. If Golden State is able to make it to the postseason and they're able to get to April, at that point, now you're at the 10-month span, I would consider it.
Okay.
If it's one of those matchups in which you're in a 7th, 6th seed and you have a favorable matchup against a 3 or 4 seed and Steph can carry you, then I would say I'm sitting back and I'm waiting.
But you think being away for 10 months from the game, come back mid postseason would be smart on the part of the? Do you think the Warriors would even want to do that?
I say yes, because if you have somebody like a Klay Thompson who's ready to play, you don't sit him. More importantly, his style of play, it's not one of those rigorous. I'm Zion.
Catch and shoot.
I must be a lot of. I have force. I stand. I would watch my feet as I stomp on the floor.
Right.
Klay Thompson has the best form in NBA history. He will go and grab the ball from somewhere and put up shots, even in a wheelchair or with crutches. This man can shoot.
Didn't he have a game where like he only dribbled like a quarter a game or something? Like 7 times.
He
or something
had
like
I believe it was 60 points on 11 dribbles.
Right. Really?
Oh yeah.
You understand? Catch and shoot play. He's not a guy that's gonna sit here and like a Steph who's a shooter off the dribble, catch and shoot, off the pick, off this, then the third. He's gonna stay.
He will stay.
It doesn't make sense for him to go anywhere. I think everybody and their grandmother knows that when it comes to the Golden State Warriors, yes, you want a KD to come back, but the core, the nucleus of that team is a Steph who's not going anywhere. Is a Klay who's not going anywhere, and of course a Draymond Green.
Yes, indeed.
Those are the guys. You're talking about the best backcourt, the best shooting backcourt, arguably in NBA history. You're talking about two of the best shooters in NBA history.
1 and 2. It's hilarious because you have somebody like Klay Thompson. If Steph Curry didn't exist, Klay Thompson would be number 1, and he wouldn't even have to had passed Ray Allen yet.
Yep.
Because if you just do the eye test,
Right.
Steph Curry, his shot, the form isn't as good as Klay,
Right.
but the ball goes into the basket.
It's just
so
every
because it
time,
goes
man.
into the basket, it's one of those situations like, this is ridiculous. It's
Right.
just fate
And-
that he has this shot go in.
And also another thing that I'll give you in regards to Klay, because like I said, I have my reservations about him coming back in the postseason. But another thing I'll give you, even if Klay is like 80-90% and he wants to play and you know that he can play, even if he comes on the court and doesn't score a single bucket for your game, the fact that because the other NBA teams know of his capability and his ability, you could use him as a decoy. The fact that Klay Thompson is on the court, you have to acknowledge him.
And he's a perimeter defender as well, because he's a very, very good defender. So that depending on how his knees are by the time he comes back, that's something of concern. Offensively, I don't think it's an issue because he can just say, "Hey, I'm just shooting," and that's it. And they'll say, "All right, we'll acquiesce to that and we'll go along with it." But defensively, he can just come on, grab somebody. He's not going to be a liability. But I think that will be the determining factor on if he gets back on the court. But I'll throw a different name at you now. Let's take a look at a Kevin Durant, same team. Do you expect this man to leave, or do you expect him to stay?
This is the most interesting one of them all. The talks are, I'm hearing talks about a sign and a trade. To where Golden State would if he wants to leave, Golden State would re-sign him, but then they would trade him right away so that they don't lose him for nothing. Before the injury, the talks was New York, Golden State. Earlier on, there was some talks about the Clippers. Very, very, very subtle talks. This man's coming off of a torn Achilles. A lot of people are concerned because of his age and because of the history that the injury has with other players that have fell victim to it. Here's the thing. I put Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson in the same box in terms of their style of play, to where it's like Kevin Durant isn't this high-flying guy that beats you with his body back to the basket, not pushing you down into the paint. No, he's a skill guy, a finesse dude. You understand what I'm saying? He's going to pull up from 30. 40, 50, the parking lot, his crib, laying down, bro. It doesn't matter. I think even though he's 30, I think he's projected to come back 2021, something like that. Yeah. It's going to take him time, being that he's been away from the game for so long. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get back into the groove of things, but he's Kevin freaking Durant, man. And because of the style, like I said, because of the style of game that he plays, I don't think his game is going to get affected that much by it. So with all that being said, KD's going to be fine. Where do I think he's going to play? He has a 1-year player option with Golden State. KD's going to the Knicks, man.
Oh, okay.
KD's going to the Knicks. Kemba and KD. If not Kemba, I think KD still goes there because for me, it's like, I don't know. The thing with KD is we always talk about, in terms of, we know what he is on the court, but off the court, we always talk about, how he paid. Not even we talk about, we see it. He pays attention to anything and everything that people talk about. Some people were even addressing that when they talk about why he came back so soon. Did he come back because of all the chirping that was going on of is he not really for the team, this, that, and the third. So with all that being said, for a fact all year long, as we're talking about, we're seeing this Warriors team just run through everybody. We're acknowledging it, but at the same time, the talk was, well, KD got to leave if he want to establish his legacy because he came to a stacked team, this, that, and the third, whoop-de-whoop. I think that for him, he's done everything that he feels like he can do in Golden State. He won 2 championships with him, back-to-back finals MVPs. I think that he goes to New York to not only build his brand off the court, but to see if he can also deliver them a championship with this young crew that they have put in place. Obviously, he's not coming back next year, like I said, 2020, 2021, but I think KD comes to the Knicks this summer, man.
I agree.
Really?
I agree.
Okay.
I believe he comes to New York. Initially, I was going to think otherwise. However, judging by how things play out, you don't. If you're Golden State, what's the purpose of having him? You're going to want to keep your core together. I think he's going to go and sign with New York, and we'll see him in 2 years.
Yeah. Next
see him there.
Next name after that, Kyrie Irving. Before you answer, the talk is he's going to the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Really?
Because it's, hold on. For me, at least, I think it's the same situation as the Celtics in terms of you put him on that team, he automatically becomes the guy again. And it's one of those things where it's like, once again, even though he might not acknowledge it, he knows in his heart of hearts, as great of a talent as he is, he's still a superstar. He needs to be with somebody. Going back to him pairing up with KD, things, et cetera, things like that. You go into a Nets, it's just a repeat situation of the Celtics. Different roster, different coach, different culture and organization, all that. Yeah, sure. But I don't know, man. I'll let you answer. I didn't want to let you. Go ahead. Where do you think?
He's coming to New York.
He's going to the Nets.
However, specifically in New York, he's going to Brooklyn. And let me tell you why. This is exactly why.
Go ahead.
Because although in my heart of hearts, I believe that he is a Robin, he's not the man. However, judging by what is out there, knowing that he has to stay away from L.A., I don't see that, going down. Initially, I was going to say the Clippers, but I believe somebody else will be going to the Clippers.
We'll get into it after.
With Kyrie Irving, him coming to Brooklyn, it's a match made in heaven. I think, because they have a position assigned to big time players.
Yes, they do.
So they can bring in a big man, not necessarily somebody who is one of those rah big time max contract sort of dudes, but they can surround Kyrie with a team that can truly contend. Because him being in the Celtics, I think what the biggest issue with him being in Boston was seeing the team that he was not playing with go to the conference finals and be one game away from the NBA finals. So you coming into this season was, this team does not need me. I have to prove my worth, and you guys did worst.
But now let me throw another factor into it that you're not thinking about. If Kyrie goes to the Nets, D'Angelo's not coming back to the Nets.
He is not.
Now, how do you feel? You don't think his teammates are going to feel a way about that? After the year that they just had, mind you, it's not like they just made it to the playoffs and that. You see them dancing on the sidelines and pouring water on each other's heads. Yes, they're a group of younger players, but at the same time, then you have some older players on that team that never really had that much success postseason. Why we call them the most fun team in the league at one point in time. They lose their guy, their leader, D'Angelo Russell, who has a similar play style to Kyrie, not as talented, of course, but a similar play style, but more willing to pass and share the basketball than a Kyrie. We recognize Kyrie as more of like an ISO ball player, right?
Yeah.
It's more like a James Harden type, just less dribbly, right? You get a Kyrie Irving, you lose a D'Angelo Russell. I don't know how his teammates react to that, especially coming off the year that he just had with Boston, not in terms of his productivity, but in terms of the talks that were going on in the locker rooms. You see the dishevelment amongst the players that aren't really too happy with the way things were going. I don't know if Brooklyn, the teammates on Brooklyn welcomes him with open arms, given that they lose a D'Angelo Russell, given what the situation that he was coming from. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I look at it like this. The teammates, they're going to have to get used to it, because we just saw that happen in Toronto. You lost your guy.
Right.
In DeMar DeRozan, and is the all-time leading scorer for Toronto. And teammates were upset about the trade having to happen.
Right.
But they looked at it as if, hey, we got somebody different now. The season's approaching. We got to figure out what to do.
But the difference between those two situations is you lose a D'Angelo Russell. There's a big difference between going from D'Angelo Russell to Kyrie versus DeMar DeRozan to Kawhi.
Well, yes.
DeMar DeRozan, perennial all-star player, very good, very, very good player. You get a player in Kawhi, all-around superstar, two-way wing player that can do it on both ends phenomenally, right? I think the only person that was really upset about that in their heart of hearts was a Kyle, really because of their relationship on and off the court, right? Once again, going back to a Brooklyn Nets situation where it's like, look, this guy just came from Boston. You see Jason Tatum isn't happy, Jaylen Brown isn't happy. He's saying one minute Kyrie saying this in the media, next minute he's saying that. It's all this chaos going on. We don't want that here. We like D'Angelo. D'Angelo is our guy. He's Kyrie. He's like a lesser version of Kyrie that actually is willing to pass the ball. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, Kyrie, you nice, but I don't really know if we fucking with you like that over here. To that you say what?
I say, hey, same thing.
Okay, fair enough.
They'll have to. I believe if Brooklyn has a situation in which they can grab somebody like a Kyrie, they're not going to pass it up.
Okay.
Although D'Angelo Russell, you see he's still developing. He's getting better. Had it been me and I'm the GM, I would have just rolled with Russell. However, judging by you have somebody on the board that is a talent, that is Kyrie, who is most likely going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
You don't want to pass that up.
Fair enough.
I think he's going to go there. And with that happening, D'Angelo Russell goes to the Clippers. And guess who goes to go join him? The reigning, defending, undisputed finals MVP, Kawhi Leonard.
Insane. Really?
Oh, yes.
That's your prediction?
Oh, yes.
You think he's going there?
I believe he's going to the Clippers.
I got to hear why, man.
Well, for one, you have him go and, succeed on his mission to go and win an NBA championship and bring one to Toronto.
Okay.
Him hanging out with everybody in Toronto, and still a lot of people believe he will re-sign. However, he has already voiced, or I should say his team has already voiced their desire to be in LA. And every time they talk about LA, you hear a little bit in the background. So you can see he kind of wants to be there. And I don't see him re-signing. I think he's brought what he had to bring over there. They have succeeded in their quest to go and win that championship. I think he's going to go to LA, man.
I agree. But I agree for a partially different reason that we're not necessarily addressing in this. When we talk about Kawhi leaving the Raptors, the talk is, well, he's going to LA, better market, this, that, and the third. He was traded there. He did what he had to do. He won him a championship, this, that. Cool. I'm here to say this, man. And we talked about this behind the scenes a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you remember it. The East is getting better. Giannis Antetokounmpo, to talk with him this entire season, when we talked about his game, the man's a superstar in the making if he isn't one already. He's one jump shot away from being the best player in the league. Ball, like, second to none. You understand what I'm saying? He's going to get better. If the Bucks are able to re-sign Chris Middleton, and I believe they will be, they'll be right back into they're already in talks, and they haven't even re-signed him yet. They're already in talks as one of the top 5 teams going into next season to go all the way back to the championship. The Bucks are going to get better. You have a Sixers team, like I said, me and you both agree, they are going to re-sign a Jimmy Butler, which I think is the most important thing for them. Joel Embiid, which is the biggest question mark on that team. If he's able to stay, I don't want to say God willing, he's able to stay healthy all season long. But with his size and who knows? Who knows? But if he's able to stay healthy long enough going into the postseason, the 76ers are going to get better. You understand what I'm saying? Those right now are the two main teams. When you look at a situation like Toronto, I think the only way I can imagine Toronto going back all the way back to the champion, to the finals, is not only if they sign Kawhi, but they got to get another piece to go with him. Not a superstar, but at least another all-star. That's not happening. We don't hear talks about anybody coming to Toronto. So for me, when you look at that, the fact that the East is only going to get stronger, you look at the fact that I think Kawhi and a lot of people know that in the back of their minds that not only is the East going to get stronger, but then it's not going to be possible for you to get another player to come to Toronto to play with a Kawhi. It only makes sense for him to leave. I think that the Raptors would be just fine. They got what they wanted. You got your chip. Congratulations. I don't know if they'll ever win another one anytime soon. No, but I can see him going to the Clippers. With D'Angelo was a little bit of a curveball, but yeah, he's going to the Clippers.
So with this being said, and our takes being said, that would mean nobody is going to the Los Angeles Lakers.
I don't think so. I don't think they should want, like I said, I said it before, man, with the money that they have, why do you don't need another star. You have a 28-8-8 in Braun, you have a 25-12 in 80. Get some 3-and-D guys, you'll be fine. You'll be right back in there. Even if they aren't able to get enough 3-and-D guys or nice pieces around LeBron, with those two alone, even if they sign a bunch of, well, I don't want to say that, but they're going to the playoffs. Let's just call it.
Oh, really? Okay, all right.
Really? You don't think so?
No, I do believe they will be in the playoffs too, but what are your reasons behind that? Do you think Frank Vogel will be the reason why they're able to make it to the postseason?
We get into that discussion.
Think it's going to be the play of LeBron and AD and Kyle Kuzma and the two other people on the roster?
Well, before we even touch on that, what were your initial thoughts when you heard about the hiring of a Frank Vogel? Not only the hiring of a Frank Vogel, a Jason Kidd and a Lionel Hollins, two former NBA head coaches. Lionel with the Memphis Grizzlies, Jason Kidd with once the Brooklyn Nets, then the Milwaukee Bucks. What are your thoughts on the hiring of Frank Vogel?
I liked it because initially I was thinking, hey, let's get somebody like a Jason Kidd be the head coach, or if not him, you'll have somebody like a Ty Lue be the head coach. But when I saw it was Frank Vogel, I said, all right, this is very interesting. This is somebody who came out of nowhere, in my opinion. But knowing his background and seeing that he was able to take that Pacer team to, I believe it was 2 conference finals, maybe 1.
Well, they had to. They always got stopped because of Braun.
Yeah, they did get stopped by, but he coached a very, very good Pacers team.
That Pacers team
and
is solid.
He did his, and you saw it wasn't as if it was I had a concrete star, because Paul George wasn't Paul George yet.
Right.
You had somebody like a Roy Hibbert who came out of nowhere and become. You're looking at it like, whoa, where's this big man coming from? He is dogging. So Frank Vogel knows what he's doing.
Right.
And he can get the other guys involved. So I think LA needs somebody who can get the others involved, because Bron is going to do Bron.
True.
AD is going to do AD. So you want to be able to get those role players off the bench to go out there and do their job.
Right.
I think Frank Vogel can get that going.
At the same time, for me, I wasn't mad at the hiring. I was surprised by the hiring.
Yes.
Because I think everyone kind of just knew it was a foregone conclusion. All right, they're going to hire Tyronn Lue. The man went to back finals with actually no, the first finals they went to, was that with David Blatt, I believe? Yeah, sorry. So back to back. They went to 3 consecutive finals, were able to win one with the LeBron James. We know that throughout LeBron's career, he's never really played with an all-time great coach, right? I don't know who his coach was his first going around in Cleveland. Mike Brown. Then he goes to Miami with Eric Spoelstra. Very good head coach, but not an all-time great head coach. Then he comes back to Cleveland with the David Blatt. Then he gets to Tyronn Lue. Now he comes to a Lakers team with the Luke Walton, goes from Luke Walton now to a Frank Vogel. The only coaches that Braun has been able to get it done with is an Eric Spoelstra and a Tyronn Lue. You're not getting an Eric Spoelstra. All right, sign the next best thing to him. A guy who just finished winning a championship with LeBron a couple years ago. But the Lakers deferred to that. They didn't want to do it. So you get a Frank Vogel who can coach, like you said. We saw what he was capable of doing with the Pacers. But it just made more sense for me, at least. Or it would have made more sense if they had went the road of a Tyronn Lue. I don't know, but I mean, it is what it is now. And now with the talks that are going around is the reason that they only really signed Frank Vogel along with Jason Kidd, because they really do want a Jason Kidd to be the head coach of the team. But because I think he had some off the court issues, something like a DUI or something crazy like that, they're gonna let Frank Vogel run it all the way through the season and then fire him and then bring in Jason Kidd.
Kidd strong arm his way into it. Okay, fair enough. But do you think it depends on how far they go this season as to if they retain Frank Vogel, or do you think? Okay,
because you can't. I mean, it was easy to fire Luke Walton because they weren't able to make the postseason, even though we knew the real reason why they weren't able to make the postseason was injuries. They didn't really want him, and then the fact that they weren't able to make the postseason only made it even easier for them to get rid of him. Okay. Right? You can't, if they make it all the way to at least the Western Conference Finals, you're gonna fire Frank Vogel. It's hard for me to imagine. You understand what I'm saying? If everything is clicking and if everything is working, if we don't hear about any off the court issues in terms of locker room drama and things of that nature, they make it to the postseason, which they're going to do regardless of what Frank Vogel does as a coach because of the talent that they have on the floor. If they make it to at least even if they don't make it. Even if they only make it to the second round, which I think is not going to happen, I think they're going to the floor for them is Western Conference Finals. It's going to be hard for me to see them firing a Frank Vogel. So I think it's about what they do this season. What about you?
I agree. I think that it is truly predicated on how far they go. If they win the NBA championship, he stays. Okay. If they lose, he's gone. So I think that's where it'll be.
Wait. If they win,
he stays.
If they make it,
yeah. If they make it,
okay. If they don't make it, he's gone.
No, if they don't make it, he's gone.
Really?
Because the floor in the Western Conference is open for the Los Angeles Lakers to go and get it. True. And if they lose, I would doubt that he's a scapegoat. So if they lose, it wouldn't be, oh, look at their play on the floor. It would be, look at the position that the players are put in on the floor. Because you're never going to be a situation where you say, yo, LeBron, it's his fault that they lost. They're going to immediately look towards the coach. So because that being, the floor, and now not having an injured, wounded Golden State, extremely young Denver team, a Portland team that always they look great until they get there. Until they get there.
Houston's a mess.
And Houston's a mess. it's open for the Los Angeles Lakers to go and get that championship. So with Vogel, I would say if he gets them to the finals, but he was extremely impressive throughout the entire season, he'll stay.
Right.
But if it's one of those rocky sort of roads and they make it despite his inept coaching style, he's gone.
So now let me ask you this though, right? You address how open the West is right now, right? The Lakers were gonna push to get AD regardless, but it's why they pushed as hard as they did to get him as soon as possible, because they understood and recognized there weren't any talks about any of the big marquee free agents coming there, so they're like, this is the guy we have to get, because it's now or never for us in terms of a championship run. You look at what they did to get AD: Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, 3 first-round picks. Do you think that they gave up too much to get AD? And if they did, do you think that they're going to regret it down the line?
Oh, yes. They're going to regret it down the line. Did they give up too much? In contrast to what they were trying to give up at the All-Star or the trade deadline, I think they did all right.
True.
I wouldn't have given up Lonzo Ball. I would have retained him. However, it was in the trade, in order to get AD, I believe it would have to either be Kuzma or it'd have to be Ball.
There you go.
Yeah, so it had to be one of those two that would have to go. But given that they're gone, I believe is in the long run, it's going to come back to hurt them. But if they can get a couple of championships now, they'll be all right.
When you say it's going to come back to hurt them, why do you feel that way? Because is it going to be because we're going to see the progression of the young players that they traded away?
Precisely.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, so because of that, I believe that Lonzo Ball and Lonzo Ingram, Hart, they'll continue to progress and get better. So in the long run, the Pelicans can become a problem. But LA wants to win now. Braun got 3 years left.
There you go.
If they can get 2 championships out of it, they'll be perfectly fine with it.
There you go. And when you put it like that, when you look at it by itself, I think that you can say yes. But in the context of the situation that they're currently in, I don't think they'll regret it if they're able to get some championships, plural. Not one championship, at least 2 out of this the 3 years that LeBron has left on their contract with him. Like you said, they're in win now mode. One, because of the mileage that is on LeBron James' body. I think this is his 16th, 17th?
Yep, going into his 17th season. 17
years in the league, right? But then also, once again, going back to it, how wide open the West is right now. They had to make this move. Because they had to make this move, because of how wide open the West is, because of how much time that you have left with the LeBron James, it was this or nothing. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that when you look at it in that regard, I don't think they're going to regret it as long as they're able to get at least 2 more championships. But then when you look at it on the flip side of things, in terms of what will become of the career of Alonzo Ball, of a Brandon Ingram, of what's the third, Josh Hart. It's going to be interesting to see how their games develop, man. Because now they're in a situation where, if Zion wasn't on the team, then the expectation would be super duper low. I think because his presence on that team and all the attention that's going to be on that team there's not going to be expectation in terms of, well, we expect them to make the play. We don't give a damn. But we just want to see what happens with with Zion. And, oh, shoot, Lonzo just so happens to be on the team. Well, let's see what happens with him. So in that regard, I think Lonzo is definitely going to come into his own. I think it ultimately depends on if he coming into next season and just in his career moving forward, he becomes a more of an aggressive player. We know that, from what he's shown us throughout his 2 years that he's been in the league this far, he is a pass first guy, right? But I think that if he fixes that broken ass jump shot, and he is able to become a perennial, if not a perennial all-star, make a couple all-star games, the Lakers are going to look back and be like, damn. Not because of him, but because of the history that they have with trading away players, and then for them to become great, well, not great, but really pretty good. You have a D'Angelo Russell, where that happened with, even though they kind of had to trade him away because of the Nick Young situation. You had to have a Julius Randle, who's coming to his own. Now you're going to there's probably one more name that I'm forgetting. No, I think that's it. Then you're going to have Alonzo. Brandon Ingram can also be in that discussion, but he has a whole situation with the blood clots. We're going to have to see how that plays out.
We'll see that.
But I think if in that regard, then they'll probably look at it and be like, damn. But if they get some championships, it'll be like, we good, we fine, we got what we wanted.
I would say in their case, it will be something like this. It will be the coronation of LeBron's career.
Okay.
When they'll have their closing remarks, much like we're about to have right now, and he will say, although the Los Angeles Lakers franchise is about to blow up in smoke,
there you go,
for a couple of years, we won a couple of championships.
Boom.
Be happy with that.
And then that's it.
And that'll be it.
That would be it, man.
That'll be it.
Wow. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's it. Is he still?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
wait,
time to go.
he did it? He did it?
Yeah,
All right,
it's
there
time
you
to go.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we made it. The first official episode. I'll take a sip of water.
Yeah. If you thought it was Claret, you thought it was
If you thought
alcohol, it
Ciroc,
wasn't.
vodka,
Yeah.
the greatest church basketball league player that's
boy,
ever
here we
lived.
go again. Here
He don't drink that. He keeps his body hydrated just in case he gets that call, ring ring. We need you back. We need you back.
Well, with that said, you guys look forward to other episodes in the future
Episode
coming
number
soon.
2. Man, we got this is gonna. I think this is gonna be the start of something special.
Oh, yeah, for
this is gonna be
sure.
the start of something special. I think we addressed a lot of. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah,
we did
yeah,
pretty good.
did all right, did all right.
How you think we did, sir? He gave us
All
a
right,
thumbs
there's a
up.
thumbs up.
There
Well,
you go,
there it
we
is.
did
All
good.
right, so we-
But you have any closing remarks before I close this thing out?
Nothing really to be said. Nothing
Okay.
really to be said. Yeah, just look forward to the next episode.
Episode 2 is going to be dope. Right now, because it's summertime, obviously, it's off-season time for the NBA and the NFL, which is going to be the focus of most of our talks. A lot of people don't know, but this man is a football savant. He knows everything NFL-related from top to bottom. And it's going to be interesting to talk about some things because we got a couple NFL discussions
Oh, yeah.
we got to get into, especially in regards to our teams. But we're not going to get into that right
Yeah,
now.
we'll get into it. Episode 2, so you stay tuned for
Episode
that.
2 is going to be dope, but because it's summertime, because it's the off season for both the NBA and NFL. Episodes are going to be not necessarily sober, but probably like bi-weekly. But once the season starts, we're going to put it at a weekly rate, and it's going to be great, man. We got a lot of great things coming. We're going to have some guests. I know it's just 2 of us now, but episode 2 will probably bring some more.
Oh, yeah. We'll have some people out here.
And it's going to be fire flame.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
going to be something special. But as always, I am my man Marv Glover, and you are.
The diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the chiseled Adonis.
And we want to thank y'all for tuning in to episode 1 of Hold My Nuggets podcast. As always, 50% real sports, 50% real talk, 100% of the time. And if you don't like that, you can hold my nuggets.
Suck my dick.
Thank you. Good night.